Warning, warning, warning. For all those that have ears to hear, please hear. I have an important announcement. Warning, warning, warning. This video is entitled Leave the World Behind Revisited, a critical analysis of the movie as it relates to the upcoming solar eclipse and what it may mean for America's future in Hebrew Israelites' perspective. Hello, my name is Christopher. You can call me Brother Christopher. And this is Christopher's Corner. Welcome. I have created this notes, critical analysis of the Leave the World Behind Revisited, because this is the time that we're in, family. There are so many things that are in that movie that relates to the upcoming eclipse and what's getting ready to happen to America. So I'm putting all the pieces together to the best of my abilities. I will break this video into two parts. The first part would be my notes that I wrote down on my notepad with respect to the movie itself, and just to let people know who haven't seen the movie or those that have seen the movie, to make you aware of certain things. So I'm going to give you a few notes that I've noticed and what it may mean from a Hebrew's perspective, and I will indicate timestamps. And the second part will just be an expanded teachings on what I believe is getting ready to happen and what this movie really represents and what is getting ready to happen. Okay, key notes of the movie. The movie. Let's break down the word, the title of the movie. Leave the world behind. Shall we say, leave mystery Babylon behind, or shall we say, leave America behind? Also, we can say, leave the American-led West behind. And finally, we can say this movie means to flee mystery Babylon. I believe that the movie itself have 5 different specific messages that's targeted to 5 specific audience members who are listening or watching this video. And the relevance of this number 5 I will discuss later in this video. The first message, or the first target audience member that I believe, based upon the analysis of the movie that I watched several times, the first is what I refer to as the wise. Whether the wise people who are aware of what's going on in today's time, whether they be Jew or Gentile, whether they be righteous or unrighteous, this movie is for them. Also, the Yahudim, Yahuwah's remnant, and all the inhabitants of America, but not to be mistaken for the quote-unquote Americans. Number 2, this message is being directed to the King of the North and his armies. Number 3, the King of the East and his armies. Number 4, member nations of what is referred to as the Global South, which are the allies and member nations of the BRICS plus 10. And finally, this message is directed to the Americans. When I say Americans, I don't mean simply living here in America or these United States. I'm referred to as what they call the privileged benefactors of this country, the targeted people of this movie. What is also could be inferred as the enemies of the new final world order that's going to rise up in the ashes of Mystery Babylon. Okay, so the movie begins. There's a woman in this movie. Her name is Amanda. She, she's a Gentile woman who's married to a husband, and they have 2 children. And right off the bat, you can see clearly that she's running a household. The man in this relationship, in this marriage, is second tier. He's not actually leading the household. It is the wife, the woman, that's actually leading the household. Minute 2 minutes and 50 seconds, Amanda's appearance is that of someone who is filled with gross darkness, as can be seen by looking in her eyes. And she says aloud, as the sun rises upon the city below, as she's looking down in her window, looking down to the people, she says to her husband, she effing hates people. Shall we say Yah's people? Then the movie continues on with the soundtrack, and I pulled apart the soundtrack to indicate several things that I pulled out of it that may be referring to what's getting ready to happen. So check this out, family. The soundtrack begins, the beginning movie soundtrack actually starts at minute 3 minutes and 20 seconds. And here are some of the song lyrics, or some of the lyrics of the soundtrack, along with some of the visuals that I will discuss. First thing off the bat, the person says the B words, referring to her, referring to Mystery Babylon, or the daughter of Babylon, aka America. And then the lyrist goes on to say that I am out for blood this time. Look. Then he goes on to say that this is the best revenge. This is a rude awakening. Kick in the door. I am ready for war. Then he goes on to say that he got new money in my hand. Okay, so let me pause here for a second. When he says that, that to me makes me think about how this new system is rising, this new global empire that's coming into the scene is telling the Americans, or the U.S. government, that we no longer need your American dollars anymore. So can we say BRICS plus 10? They formed this new union called the BRICS Plus, and then they added 11 members, of which 10 signed on. So now there's BRICS Plus, or in totality, there's 10 members of this alliance called BRICS. So he's the artist that's singing this lyrics, this rap's lyrics. He's basically telling whoever he's representing, he's saying we don't need your American dollars anymore. We got the BRICS. Now during the soundtrack, now I'm not going to cover every single verse of the lyrics, just certain ones that stand out with respect to biblical prophecy and from the Hebraic standpoint. Now during the soundtrack, some of the visuals that were displayed on the screen, if you're just watching the soundtrack as you're listening to the sound, as you're watching the movie, as you listen to the soundtrack, this shows many displays of guns of different types, when we can refer that to be as weapons of war. Then they display on the TV, on the screen, ships and airplanes. And these also can be used weapons of war. Then it goes on to display either 48 or 49 or 50 flags. I tried to count it as fast as I could, but I'm thinking it's either at least 48, but possibly 50 flags. American flags. Now note, family, these American flags, every single one of these flags that were displayed during the soundtrack, all the flags were upside down. Whenever you have an American flag upside down, this indicates a nation in distress. So for them to show 48 to 50 states is most likely telling the viewer that whatever's going to happen is most likely going to affect, if not all, 48 to 50 states. The reason why I'm making a discernment between 48 and 50 because we're talking about the 48 states that's together Now, I'm not referring to Hawaii or Alaska. Now, we can get to it later about what I believe is going to happen to Alaska versus what happens to um, Hawaii. But we're concerning ourselves with the continental 48 states. Okay? So, when I count the number of flags, I counted 48. It could possibly be more, like I said, you know, but we know that this is whatever's going to happen. This is being directed and targeted for specific audience members who are watching this movie, because you know what they always do before they do something, they always got to put it out there. Okay, so after that, the movie resumes on plane with the Clay family is driving to the house that they rented for the weekend. Now Clay um, is the father, so they got the the husband. Amanda is the wife, and they had two children with them in this vehicle. So Amanda is on the front passenger side, while Clay is actually driving. So Amanda is on her cell phone talking with someone who we can assume is a friend of hers. She's talking to just talking to someone on the cell phone, talking about going to a hamlet in Long Island, and she goes on to describe what a hamlet is. Now, there's two things that stand out during this conversation. When the video pans to the front of the car, you see that there's two inspection stickers that's posted on the windshield of that vehicle that they're driving in, and the numbers on that is 12. On the first stamp it says 12, and the second stamp says 22. So when you put it together, you can look at it as being 12/22. Now that to me indicates a date. So let's just keep that in mind for a second. So remember that their windshield had 12/22. And I will mention the relevance of this later. But going on to this, the movie is centered around Long Island, and they were going to a quote unquote hamlet in Long Island. Now, wouldn't you know, family, when I looked this up, I did my research, despite what they called it in the movie, because we know it was called Port Comfort, but in this movie, the location in which this movie is set on, in Long Island, there are indeed 10 hamlets in the Long Island area of New York. And in this, there's a town that these hamlets are situated in. And guess what the name of this town is? I kid you not, family. The town is called the town of Babylon. So that also points to America being Mystery Babylon. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue on to what I looked at from a minute, 11, and 20 seconds. They arrived in Port Comfort Hamlet. Like I said, there is no Port Comfort Hamlet in the New York area. So this movie was specifically put that particular name for a reason. And most of us know that Port Comfort is the city, is the town that the first slave ships arrived in Virginia in August 1619. So you got Port Comfort, it's the name of the town which the first slave ships came into America that were bringing in the descendants of the Israelites, brought them to America, Judah in particular, as slaves to be sold on auction at the port. It was Port Comfort in Virginia, United States, in August 1619. So the movie continues on with the youngest of the Clay family. The girl's name is Rose. Even though she's 13, they have her in a situation where she's still of the age of innocence. So let's keep that in mind. Even though she's not an Israelite, they situated this movie in such a way when she's considered the age of innocence. And she's the first one of the group to notice the ship across the ocean. More importantly, she questions it, as in to say there is something wrong here. An hour or so later, they still, she still is the only one who noticed it getting much closer than before. And about 2 minutes after that, a minute 12, or minute 13 and 20 seconds, Rose again warns her parents about the approaching ship, that it is really close to shore now. It is at this point they realize that there's really a problem, and they had to make haste to leave the area to avoid the collision of the ship. So the ship was actually an oil tanker, and most of us know that the oil tanker was named White Lion that crashed upon the shore. So what is the significance of White Lion and how it relates to Port Comfort in 1916, the first slave ship? Well, the name of the ship, White Lion, was actually the name of the first slave ship that arrived in American shores in 1916. When the White Lion reached the shore of that Port Comfort town where they were vacationing, that issue, or that symbolizes, that event symbolizes that the vacation is over for America, that life of privilege is over, and that paradise is lost. And the Clay family flees the White Lion, which symbolizes slavery. That slavery, as an institution, is coming to the Americans. It's coming to America for the Americans. Okay, so let's continue on to the next section of this presentation, of this video. Now, going back to what I said before about Clay's family car, they had inspection stickers in front of their windshield that read 12/22, which is a hidden meaning and a hidden date meaning. So when we look at the classical months in the Gregorian calendar that we use today, like October, November, December, January, February, the word oct, or October, literally means 8th month. So then you can see that if you look at, if October is the 8th month, then the date is actually 08/22. If November, November means the 9th month, then the date should be 09/22. The same thing for December. December means the 10th month, so it should be recorded as 10/22. So therefore, it is actually January is the 11th month, and February is the 12th month. So now the dates that are recorded is 11/22 for January and 12/22 for February. So this is the date. Now, what's significant about this particular date, family, was, remember I said that this was on the car in that movie, right at the time where things started to break down. As they were driving their vehicle, the little girl's Rose's her internet started to malfunction, and she couldn't finish streaming one of those videos that she was, a Friends episode that she was watching. And it happened right after it showed this particular time, this date that was on that sticker. Now, so if you look at this, February is not the 2nd month, February is the 12th month. So now look at this, family. So on February 22nd, 2024, mathematically read as 12/22/2024, was the exact date that most, if not all, cell phone networks inexplicably went offline or were hacked or disrupted all across these United States of America. Whoops. How did they know that? Is it a coincidence? I think not. Okay, so I'm going to continue on with the my notes that I've written down for the movie based on this timestamp. So in minute 31, they displayed a map that showed the U.S. was divided into four parts: Northeast, Southeast, Southwest, Northwest. And there was one particular um, portion of the country that was not displayed in this map, and that was Hawaii and Alaska. So that's like a separate, because they're physically detached from the continental U.S. We can consider that being the hidden part. So they were showing four parts, but one part was hidden of America. So that again, that goes back to that number 5. And I'm going to elaborate more on that number 5 and what it means in this video. So going on, minute 34, there was a TV that displayed, that showed cyber attack across the country, power outages, East Coast metro areas was most affected. South, and now from what I gathered, based on that map that they were displayed at minute 34, the Southeast appears to be the least impacted by outages with respect to the population density. And then in minute 35, there was a text report that came out in Amanda's phone that read, New York Times, major blackout reported in East Coast. CNN reported East Coast reports of power failure, and CNBC said there was hackers behind the power failure. And then the Washington Post, which is in the West Coast, the message was garbled, meaning that the South, the Southeast, Northeast, Northwest, Southwest was separated, physically separated from communicating from one side to another of the country. That's my estimation on what was happening. So we go on to move to minute 40. Okay, at minute 40, the mother, Amanda, tells Ruth that her daughter is only 13 years old in 1 month, but that she's still a baby at heart. So they're once again indicating that she's still considered the age of innocence. As a side note, in minute 46 and 26 seconds, the first visible timestamp that was seen in her review messages, or in her text messages on her phone, was 9:23 p.m. I'm sorry, not Amanda's. On GH's phone, or George's phone, when he looked at his phone to try to reach out to his wife Maya, the timestamp was 9:23. I don't truly understand what the significance of 9:23 is with respect to what's happening, but I do know that 9:23 or 23 or 23:9 is a repeated theme in almost every Hollywood picture. They always use 23 or 9:23 or 23:9 or 23-9 or 9-23. So there's something up with that particular number. I just can't figure out what it is at the moment of this video. But perhaps you can let me know and tell me what that number means, what the significance. So going to minute 48, the car radio blinks on and off, and the megahertz, or the channel that kept blinking on and off, the only one that was working was 1619. I mean, it wasn't working, but that was the only one that kept being indicated on the meter. Okay, so minute 51, that this is a jab. At minute 51, where Clay is trying to understand what the Spanish woman is talking about. This was and he had no knowledge of what she was saying, and he ended up just leaving her there in the midst of her trouble. She was obviously needing help. She obviously was in distress, and because he didn't understand what she was saying, what she was trying to articulate, he just drove away. Now understand this, family. Most times when you are watching a movie or a TV show and it's significant and it's like at length talking to someone who doesn't speak, typically they try to, or sometimes, in most cases, they will indicate on the screen via a closed caption showing what the person is saying in English. But in this case, it was completely left out. So this was a jab at the typical American who refuses to learn other languages, or the people that typically refuses to learn other languages or infer to other nations who come in here, you need to learn English. So that was a jab at them. So what the person was saying was actually available online. You could go online and find out what that woman was saying, but they didn't show it in the movie. And it was a real dire situation apparently. And Clay, being the man of the house of the Clay family, he just left her there out there in the wilderness. He just left. He just left her there. Okay, so in minute 51, GH goes to his friend's house to ascertain what's going on. His friend wasn't there, and he noticed that there was a lot of stuff being thrown about in the person's yard, and everything was wet and disheveled. The door was open, and it was like everything was wet on the inside. The carpeting and the flooring was completely soaked. He didn't understand what was going on at the time he walked in there. And then, long story short, he comes to find out what's happening. Planes were falling out of the sky, causing the water to recede into to rush up out of the ocean and thrust into that person's house because he had an oceanfront view property. But he goes into the person's garage, pulls out a satellite phone, or what they call sat phones, and then he got a line of sight of the sky, a clear view of the sky, and he tried to make a communications call. I think he was desperately trying to reach out to his wife. But here's the thing, family. The sat phone did not work. Now, why was it important to put a sat phone in that movie, in that circumstances, for the purposes of him not being able to use the phone at all? This is what I believe is what was happening. It was letting people know that when America is attacked, there are those people, we can call them preppers, and even those that were in Congress, the U.S. Congress and the U.S. Senate, were given satellite phones. So this movie is letting them know that even though you're trying to maintain control over chaos with this whole notion of continuity of government, we got to be able to keep communications online for the essential government functioning while everyone else is in chaos. This movie clearly indicates that their plan is not going to work. Even if you were given sat phones, it's still not going to work. You could be just as in the dark with respect to communication as someone who has a landline phone or a cell phone. So that's what that message was. Okay. Okay, so minute 59, 24 seconds. Archie, who is the son of Clay and Amanda, he's like 16 or 17 years old. But here's the thing, in that timestamp at minute 59, Archie, which is his name, he gets bitten by a bug in the woods. So you can look at this as something being injected inside of him, some unknown chemical cocktail that may or may not contain radioactive materials or whatever. We don't know what was in that bug, but that implies something else. We know what happened in the past three years or so, since 2021, or 2020, 2021. We know that things, what was transpiring. I don't have to say what it is, but just use your imaginations. Clay's son, Archie, was bitten by a bug, and when he smacked it, he first smacked the bug, then he pulled it out. So that was an indication that something was deliberately or unintentionally was injected inside of him. What apparently looks like there was at the time, there was no consequence. But then once minute 103, which is an hour and 15 minutes into the movie, they start to introduce sonic weapons. Now, of the 6 characters that was in that movie, there was only one individual whose health seemed to be rapidly declining. And guess what? It's the same individual that was injected. So we know that there's something significant about that particular bug bite, let's just say, and sonic weaponry. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Use your imaginations. What I notice is, I don't know what it means. Speaking of on white and black, what I've noticed that in the movie, when the sonic weapons were being broadcast, the black people that were there covered their ears by sticking their finger inside of the ear canal to make a snug earplug to prevent the sound from going into their brain and damaging it. Whereas all the white people that were in that movie, when they heard the sonic weapons, they didn't put their fingers in their ears. What they did was they took the palms of their hands and just placed it over their hand or over their ears. So between those two scenarios, which one do you think is more effective at blocking out sound? Sticking your ears inside of sticking your fingers inside of your ears, or simply placing your palms on top of your ears? I'll let you decide that one. Okay, so let me take a minute break here to relay some information that I realized here. In the movie, there was 2 individuals in the movie that when you look upon their eyes, not in every instance, but in some instances, their eyes, because everything's done intentionally when you're talking about movies. The makeup crew, they put the makeup on, on all the actors. So what I noticed was Amanda's eyes was darkened to the extent where it indicates that she had gross darkness in her. And the same thing with Archie. Archie, when you look at Archie, the young boy, the 16-year-old, certain instances, certain screenshots of him show that he had darkened eyes just like Amanda. So they put the makeup on the individuals to make his eyes look darker than it's supposed to be. So that also indicates that he had the gross darkness in him. Okay? So, and the other thing is what I've noticed is that the F word is used a lot in this movie. From the beginning of the movie, from the soundtrack to all the way to the very end. F this, F this, F that, F this, F this, or F, 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 what was that? F, F, F. Okay, so now the traditional, the classical word, I'm not going to sound it out, but you know what I'm saying. The classical F word used to mean to strike. It didn't mean what people use it today as, or as a curse word. It meant to strike. So, coming from a war mindset, what does strike mean? It means to attack, or to hit, or to decimate, or to shock and awe. Whatever term you want to use, military term you want to use in there. So that's an indication to me that there's something going on. That word was specifically used. They could have used any other curse word. They could have used any other swear word or any other owie type words when they bumped their head or whatever. But no, it was constantly F, 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 F. The young child, even the one that was age of innocence, was using it. The father used it. The mother used it. The daughter used it. The son used it. GH used it, and his daughter used it. They all were using it all throughout the movie. Okay, let me continue on to the movie. All right, so let's see here. Just give me for a second. I'm looking through my notes here. Okay, so 1 hour and 13 minutes, the Tesla cars were self-driving themselves to block traffic via deliberate car crashes. These were new, unsold cars straight from the dealership. And they indicated that the safety protocols were deactivated. Fun fact, Tesla actually recalls all of their autonomous vehicles shortly after the broadcast of this movie. Just saying. Anyway, continuing on to 1 hour and 13 minutes. um, the little girl, Rose, is the only one that can hear the sirens. She's the first one that hears the sirens, and the other people in the car didn't hear the sirens until they were basically closer to where all the accident was occurring at. And then a minute, 1 hour, 19 minutes, GH and Amanda come to the realization that their lives were all a delusion, imaginary numbers, imaginary moving around imaginary money, leading to imaginary success. Uh, hour, 1 hour and 21 minutes. GH has something scary. He says, the scary thing is nothing, the scary thing is nothing frightens him more than someone who doesn't learn even at their own expense. That's a darkness that he will never understand. Again, when you say darkness, it goes back to what I was saying before. The Bible quote, paraphrasing, darkness covered the earth and gross darkness to people. Okay, they're implying that there's something going on between the bug injection, what's happening today, darkness and gross darkness. And he's saying that that's what scares him. When you have when you have people that trust and rely upon him to fulfill his services to his clients, and you have people, because of hate, because of unwillingness to change their thinking, they go through this process when they hurt themselves and they don't even learn the lesson from having gone through that. There's a number of people that are like that. We can say there's a nation of people that are like that. Okay. So 1 hour and 40 minutes. GH's daughter tells her father that trust shouldn't easily be given to anyone, especially white people. Now, this particular point, this verbiage, what she said was a black daughter talking to her black father, and she says, trust should not be doled out easy to anyone, especially white people. Then she goes on to say, even mom would agree with me on that. So that tells me this was not a racial moment. This wasn't a racist moment. This wasn't black people being racist towards white people. This was her acknowledging the truth that her mother was white. And she was indicating to her father that even her mother, who is white, would agree with her on that statement. Because when things get tough, when things get chaotic and start breaking down, you can't just be giving out trust like that, especially those people be given, not because of blanket statements, but because of historical experience of those people with respect to black people. So she was telling her father, listen, you can't just give out trust to people like that. And but what did the Most High say to us? He said, trust in no man. We trust in the Spirit, not man. Trust in the Spirit, not in the flesh. Trust the Spirit, not what we see with our eyes. You gotta have faith. So she's just having a conversation. Look, my mom is white, but she will agree with me on this. This is what she's saying. She will agree with her on this statement. So I don't believe that this was a racist, contentious issue that some make it out to be. I think they used this particular line out of the entire movie with all the stuff that's going on in it. They took this one little snippet and says, this movie is racist, it's trash, let's not watch it. They want to throw out the entire movie because it's one line. So I'm coming to say that this is not a racist movie. It's a very impactful movie. It's a movie that people who have understanding need to adhere to get ready to what's getting ready to happen. So I'm dismissing that notion that this was a racist movie, because it wasn't. If anything, it was Amanda in the beginning of the movie who was racist towards the black people, if you want to put it that way. But we understand that that's not the issue for us. So we got some people out here who's downing this movie only because of that one line when the girl tells her daughter about that. Okay, moving on. Okay, now, so here's where things get very interesting. In the movie, as I said before, the movie was broken down into 5 parts. As you can see here, the movie was divided in 5 parts. The house, the curve, the noise, the flood, and the end. And and I'm breaking this particular video out into 2 parts. Like I said, the first one, timestamp notes, and then I'm gonna start breaking things down from in a more articulate manner. Okay, but going back to the timestamp notes. So, at minute 1 hour and 41 minutes, there's an eclipse that is shown. From the surface of the moon, you saw the American flag and all of their whatever junk that they left, they claim to have left on the moon, and the sunlight was actually hitting the surface of the moon, reflecting the flag. Then the Earth itself, the world, was moving into the extent where there was a total solar eclipse that hit the moon. So what that tells me is that the world is moving away from America and leaving America in the dark. They're going to leave America behind, and not only that, these things are going to happen following the eclipse. They told you right there in the movie. Day 3, there was 3 days. The movie transpired over 3 days and 3 nights. On the 3rd day is when the eclipse happened. And after that, the 5th chapter began, part 5, the end. The end happened right after the eclipse. And I'm going to break this down a little bit later. But just keep that in mind. So minute 1 hour and 42 minutes, the young boy loses his teeth. This is a future. This is a future that's reserved for America as a whole. Losing one's teeth. Now, let me pull something out real quick here. I got something. When a person loses his or her teeth, now, let's go back for a second. America is all about living the dream, the American dream. So in this dream, we come to a chapter in America's life where the eclipse happened and everything overnight turns into a nightmare. And in this dream, the boy, who represents the future of America, if you know what I'm saying, loses his teeth, pulls his teeth out one by one, he spits out blood, he spits out his teeth. Now, what that means is this. There's several meanings for that. Okay, so that goes back into Amos chapter 4, verse 6. Respecting the children's teeth is set on edge, meaning that the children is going to suffer for the sins of their fathers. Now, we understand that that everyone is responsible for his or her own sins from an individual level. But as we know, as we're coming out of the 400-year curse on Israelites, there's a national curse from the fathers that started that nation. Those sins are being counted up. Those sins have to be paid back. There's a debt owed, and so the fact that he lost his teeth tells me to refer to Amos when it says the teeth is set on edge. The children are suffering for the sins of their father. So this is what's getting ready to happen. And then the other thing, it talks about hold on a second. I thought I had it. Okay, family, I got it. So the other meaning with respect to having dreams about your teeth crumbling or you spitting out your teeth. Um, it is caused because of loss of power or control over a situation. Mm. So who are we talking about? Who's losing control? In what scenario? So we know America's time is up. So that's what that symbolizes to me. That the person's teeth was falling out. So minute, 1 hour and 45 minutes, GH's daughter pleads with her father, GH, not to leave her there alone at the house, as she is frightened, and she says the world could be ending. See the world could be ending out there. So GH then says, let us synchronize our timers on their cell phones for 1 hour, and he'll be back before then. And then she tells him, remember, this is very important. This is a very important key. That she said that you promised 1 hour. You got 1 hour, and that's it. This is key. Mystery Babylon, that great city, is destroyed in 1 hour, and that's what that indicated. Because right after that hour, when they set the timers, GH goes on to help Amanda and her family. Amanda stays with Ruth. After the hour goes off, the alarm chimes, beep, 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 and they look up and they look and gaze upon, off in the distance, they see New York City being destroyed by bomb and fire. So in 1 hour, Mystery Babylon was destroyed. They're telling you right there, this is straight out of the Bible. Okay, so let's continue on to 1 hour and 52 minutes. The boy asks his father, do you think Taylor's okay? And they look at each other, GH and Clay look at each other, what is he talking about? Who's Taylor? So what I did was, because we know the name of his sister isn't Taylor, it was Rose. So why did he say Taylor? So I looked it up, and guess what I learned? Taylor, the definition of Taylor, the biblical meaning of Taylor, means clothed with salvation. The biblical meaning of Taylor translates to clothed with salvation, and the name means eternal beauty. And so when I look at this, I'm like, okay, so they've spent the entire movie letting you know that she was of the age, she was under the age of, she was still in the age of innocence. And on all the four, she was the only one that made it to the house, to the house, the bunker. And I'll cover that a little bit later. All right, I think I can stop here. Looking at okay, yeah, I can stop here. Let me stop here so I can end this video, part one, and then I'll start with part two. Well, actually, I can go ahead and continue on with part two, but this will be a different lesson. Okay, so part two is going to start with this right here. Part two of my video, we're gonna describe part one of the house, part two the curve, part three the noise, part four the flood, part five the end. Okay, just give me 1 second. Okay, family, I'm getting ready to start part two. I'd like to take a second to thank you all for the donations. My Cash App is on the screen. You can actually scan it, or you can just type in Cash App at command SET. Thank you, family. Okay, so let's start with part one, the house. What does the house mean? So why this? Before we continue on, let's just why why was there five parts in the movie? Like I said, the first one right here, the movie has five separated parts or scenes, which sets the tone for what follows, and that's what these are here. And then the other thing is that there are six main characters in the movie, five of which retained their health while one was extremely sickened. So when you take 1/6, that comes out to 0.1666. Identifies the five actors or countries that were involved. Russia was named, Iran was named, China was named, North Korea. The guy was Kevin Bacon was going back and forth between China and North Korea. Well, he just said China, Korea, one of them. So we know that North Korea is with China. These are the king of the East. This is the Medes, and this is the king of the North, and of course the United States. When he said that they made a lot of enemies. Now the movie itself, Leave the World Behind. I've done my research on it. There's five different files that's combined together to make that one movie. There were 4 audio files. I'm not going to break it down, but there were 4 audio files and 1 video file. There are videos out there on TikTok and on Facebook and on YouTube. You can figure out what those audio files. There's other videos out there that let you know how this movie was done in 5 parts. But I'm just seeing an overall theme here. The movie was broken down into 5 parts. There were 5 people who did not get unhealthy, that maintained their health. Only 1 got sick from the sonic weapons. There was 5 actors: Russia, Iran, China, North Korea, and the United States. There were 5 files for audio and video, and then the TV signal when GH was switching the channel. Not GH. When Clay was trying to change the channel to fix it for Rose. The TV signal was out, but the TV was set to channel 101. Now, those of you who are scientists or computer scientists know about binary codes. 101 stands for 4 plus 5, or 4 plus 1, which is 5. So there's 5 again. There's 5 here, 5 there, 5 there, 5 there, 5 here. Now, like I said before, the exploded U.S. map, it was split into 4 sections: northeast, southeast, northwest, southwest. And the communication lines was cut based on these. Alaska and Hawaii wasn't shown, so that's the 5th part. Again, that's 4 plus 1 equals 5. There's 5 sections of the U.S. map, and it was segregated. Now, going back to the 5 divided parts, the house, the place or places where God's presence is manifest, a place of safety or refuge. The house can be either the building or the persons occupying it. For example, the house of Israel. The house also implies, biblically speaking, to be amongst one own people. The Bible talks about how every nation shall go to his own nation, and Israel will be restored. Judah will go back to the promised land, and Israel following him. The house can also represent a place of tent, or a place of safety. Now, in the beginning, they make you think that the house was about the house that they were renting in the beginning of the movie. When in actuality, the house represents the place of safety towards the end when everything breaks down. Let me go back one step. I forgot to mention something. So, this movie was broken into 5 parts. You got the house, the curve, the noise, the flood, the end. When in actuality, it's really a timeline. First is the house, then the curve, then the noise, then the flood, and then the end. I'm going to break it down. Y'all don't even believe this. I'm going to break it down. So the curve means to have or take a turn, to change, a deviation from the straight line or plane surface without sharp breaks. The curve means to cause to curve, to throw a curveball, which also implies trick or deception. We need to remain in our homes, shut down the schools and businesses except for shopping for essential items, and social distance to flatten the curve. Now you getting it, family? We were told to stay in our house, We have until we flatten the curve, and then we're going to go to the next one after that. So this is a timeline. It's very, very ingenious the way they set this movie up, breaking the 5 parts to make you think the parts were based upon the movie itself. And in actuality, it's a lot deeper than that, a whole lot deeper. So the second one, I'm sorry, didn't happen really. The third one, the noise. Noise is an unwanted signal, communication, a broadcast, or a disturbance that intends to distract one from the discovery of what is hidden or from the truth. Noise also implies irrelevant or meaningless data or output occurring alongside with desired information. So we can't give you the whole truth, we gotta put some lies in it. You know, all these things that are coming out now, they're saying that the aliens are coming out. Alien deception. We know that there's no aliens, there's no space, there's no flying saucer coming from Mars, none of that nonsense. We know that there's the heavenlies above, the earth, and then the abyss beneath. We know that if they claim to be aliens, we know that they're either angels, holy angels, or fallen angels. It could be one of those. So noise can also mean misinformation, disinformation, propaganda, lies, untruths, and a psyop masquerading as the news. Alien deception. They did this. This is what the noise is. And now we have all, in the sense of common talk, the noise can be considered rumors. And we know the Bible talks about wars and rumors of war. The noise can also mean outcry, protest, indirect, casual, or unofficial comments. We're seeing all of this today, family. We're seeing all this today. This is exactly what the movie said was going to happen. This is why I keep saying that this is more of a timeline. The next one after that is called the flood. The flood is an overflowing of a large amount of water beyond its normal confines, especially over what is normally dry land. It is also an overflowing amount of migrants entering into a country beyond its normal operational legal entry points, especially over what is normally permissible under the law. You see where I'm going with this, family? This is happening right now in America. It's happening in those Western nations that follow after America. The flood is arrive in overwhelming amounts or quantities to receive so many letters, complaints, or inquiries that you can't deal with them all. That's what a flood is. And lastly, in the biblical sense, flood can be invading armies or enemies inside of what is generally considered protected areas, cities, and other safe lands. So you have all of these sleeper cell agents coming into the country, and you have all these illegal immigrants, or whatever you want to call them, coming into they're being busted in, they're being shuttled in, they're being flown in from airplanes. They're coming in all over the place. That is the flood. And what happens after the flood? The end. Again, family, when the movie part 5 started, the end, right before the end came on, they showed you the eclipse. And what was eclipse? What was in the path of total darkness? It was one country, America. This is not the end of the movie. It points to the prophecy that says Esau is the end of the world, while Jacob is the beginning of the world which follows. In the end, cell phone timers were set for 1 hour, and in 1 hour, Babylon that great city was destroyed, was bombed and fired. The movie ends with America having been invaded by her enemies who have teamed up to take her down, ending her reign as the world's hammer. This part of the chapter, the end, starts right after, I've said this before, I'm going to read it again. The end starts right after the total solar eclipse is shown in the movie, where America is left behind and in the dark. Family. This is an actual timeline. This is why it's important for me to get this video out now. I was being led to do my research, to do my due diligence, to go ahead and get this video out as soon as I can. If I had more time, this presentation would have been more polished. Trust me on that. I've done this many years in my jobs. Now, in jobs that I've had in the past, I should say. Now, I'm going back and forth because I'm trying to keep track of what I have written down versus my notes I have on the computer screen and all the other pages I have in this presentation. But believe me, if I had more time, I would make it more polished. But I don't. I was told to get this video out to you all as soon as possible. It is very important for you to share, like, and to share this video, to talk about this video, to go back and watch the movie again after this video, to revisit it. It's important, family. We have to be on the same page. So this is white lion, and this little symbol here, and that symbol resembles something from a Paleo-Hebrew standpoint. It's not exactly Paleo-Hebrew, but it looks something similar that I saw before. And let me go back to it here. So what that symbolizes to me is it's actually two things. The Paleo-Hebrew known as sin or shin. This is the teeth or ivory, a point of a rock, a peak, and it means to devour, consume, destroy, or something very sharp. Now, there's a reason why they put this here. This is not some udder, this is not like an udder or what do you call this thing? Or anchor or anything like that. This is painted on, like the paint from White Lion. This is painted on. This was done for a reason. It's on this side, it's on this side. See it there? And I've actually circled here. See that? That's the same symbol, both sides. Now, so let's continue on with the eclipse, because this was relevant to this movie. So this is the exploded map that I was telling you about. So you see that America is divided into 4 parts. One part is hidden and one is shown. There's 4 parts here. We got, like I said, we have the southwest. Northwest, southwest, southeast, and northeast. The parts not hidden is Hawaii and Alaska. Now, this is what I believe. Alaska may be taken over by the Russians in the future, because this is where the judgment is. X marks the spot. So, in Hawaii is a stolen kingdom. That was not a legal process for them when they absorbed Hawaii. It's a legal process. That land might be returned to its owners. That's probably why you have all these issues there now with in Maui with the fires and all of that. Okay. So this is the United States map. This is the 3 American eclipses overlay. The first one was the one that was in 2017. This one is coming up next month, in April the 8th. This one is the lunar eclipse. Now, when you look at these three eclipses, it brings out two different distinct symbols. The first one is the Paleo-Hebrew Aleph, which means strong, power, head, first. And then the last one is Tau, which means mark, seal, sign, last, end. So again, we're talking about X marks the spot, that there's a seal of judgment that's being laid upon this country, and there's a sign that the Heavenly Father, because Aleph and Tau, that is Yeshua. He said he's the first and the last, the Alpha and Omega. So there's something here, family. And when we look at Tau, these are the different, like Arabic, Hebrew, Aramaic, Syriac. But this is the Tau. That's this letter right here. This is the Paleo-Hebrew, and the more modern version, what we refer to as the X today. And there's a reason why I'm bringing this up. So the Phoenicians, the hieroglyphs, so the X that we have today in the English language comes from the Tau. That's where it's coming from. So when you put these two letters together, you get this. Aleph, Tav, first and the last. And these two letters together means covenant. And you look at it, you can actually translate the Aleph, Tau, you can translate the Tau to an X. So you get AX. Okay, follow me here. You get two letters. You get the alpha, which is A, and Tau, which is the X. So that's AX. Now, check this out. You are not going to believe this. When I translate the AX and take A is the first letter of the English alphabet, Aleph, so we don't have to change that. But the X is the 24th letter of the English alphabet. So when you superimpose X with 24, you get A24. Okay? Now, there's a movie coming out next month called A24 Civil War. Look at that. Tell me that's not a coincidence. I mean, tell me that's, I don't believe in coincidences. There's something definitely going on here. This movie's coming out. GH talks about in the movie that there's 3 steps of them to break down the American government. And 3 steps he mentioned. One was control chaos, cutting off the communications and the water supply, the food, the transportation. Then he goes on to the confusion, which is the noise again, confusion, so that the people will fight each other. And the third one was civil war. He said a coup d'etat. That was the 3rd step. So you got the movie that came out. Then it talks about the eclipse. Everything breaks down. All forms of communication breaks down. And then when you look at Aleph Tav, from the eclipse that happens after, the eclipse is coming on the 8th, when you put it together, you get A24, what I described here. AX equals A24. And the movie comes out called Civil War. A24 Civil War. Not just any Civil War. It literally has it in the name. There's A24 there, there's A24 there, and there's A24 here. A24 Civil War. There is something definitely going on. This is him pulling out his teeth, and then there's meanings of dreams about people who lose their teeth. So, what does it mean when they dream that the person pulls out his or her own teeth? The dream symbolizes a feeling of powerlessness or anxiety about losing something important. Now, what is this something important? Could it be the hammer of the earth? Could it be the prominence in the first world status? Could it be America being the great, or America being number one? It could be a whole number of things, but the movie is basically telling you what's happening. This is just another visual of what I was referring to. We got first the Aleph. When you put all 3 eclipses together, you have one up 2017 total solar eclipse, one coming up next month, 2024 total solar eclipse, and then last year, 2023, you had a total lunar eclipse. When you put those 3 together, you get the Aleph, which is the Hebrew, and if you look at just the solar eclipses, first one and the last one, you get the mark, or the Tau, and this means X marks the spot. Now check this out, family. This is one last thing I want to bring out before we bring this to a close. They have all these things. They have Generation X. You have Twitter turning into X. You have X marks the spot. You have X News, X Flyer. You have all these X-ray television, whatever the case may be. You have all these X's that are used. Even when it comes to the Babylonian holidays, like Christmas, they changed the Christmas, removed Christ, and put an X there. There's something about the X. So it's Xmas instead of Christmas. When you are in a relationship with someone and you break all communication with them, that person is your ex. All right? These words mean something. Now, the last thing I want to bring up is with respect to the X, or the X marks the spot, is they talk about something that came out after the pandemic was over. Everyone started to talk about disease X. Do you want to know what disease X is? Disease X is the cancer that is stopping or hampering the growth or consuming too much resources for the new global empire that is arising. So disease X is actually the Americans, and they have to stop the disease X by any means necessary. So to kill off disease X, in the context of what I'm talking about, there would have to be some type of war. You invade the army, you inject into this nation something that's going to kill off the quote-unquote infection. And then you reprogram the inhabitants to fight amongst themselves, and you would have what they refer to as civil war. And you stop them from growing, you cut them off from food and supplies, you cut them off from the rest of the world, so the cancer dies. America is disease X. Thank you, family. May this lesson, may this video was a blessing to you. May this video goes out to all the people that need to hear and see this video. Please share this video, discuss it amongst the brethren, talk about this video, send the video out to all your friends and your family. Let them know about the movie. Have them go watch the movie again after they watch my video. Then go back and watch the movie so that things can be made plain. Things become clear. And then you pray upon the Father in the name of Yeshua to be led of the Holy Spirit about what is your next move. Whether you be Jew or Gentile, I say to you, shalom, shalom. Thank you, family. Oh, I'm sorry. There was one last thing I wanted to bring up. There's a lot of talk about 3 days of darkness. Now, I don't know where I stand on that exactly in terms of whether I believe it or not. But for the most part, I rejected it because I didn't think it was biblical. Then the Spirit placed upon me to understand that the last days would be as the sign of Jonah. Excuse me. And what I was told was Jonah was left in the belly of the whale, excuse me, for 3 days, 3 nights in darkness. So that was brought to my mind. And then I was told to just remind you again that the movie, Leave the World Behind, or shall we say, Leave Mystery Babylon, or Flee Mystery Babylon, this movie goes over 3 days and 3 nights before the end came. So I just want to leave you with that. 3 days and 3 nights. The significance of the number 5 parts, and the eclipse. And it's all related. I don't know exactly how it's all related, but I'm being led of the Spirit to warn everyone to be prepared. Shalom, family.